Hey everybody, and welcome to The Breakthrough Effect. I'm your host, Jared Sebesta. I've had two successful careers. First, I was an award-winning TV meteorologist and then a financial marketing strategist. I was living the dream, making good money, but inside I was craving for something more, something bigger. So I stopped deferring life and I started creating exactly the life I was searching for. I doubled down on unlearning old mindsets and creating big breakthroughs for me and my family. And now I'm bringing that same transformation to you. Let's understand the rules of this game. Let's get clarity. Let's stop chasing and start becoming. This is The Breakthrough Effect. All right, today on The Breakthrough Effect, I'm talking with Ashley Hawks, a woman who transformed from a successful international model to a serial entrepreneur who turned her mom's bridal boutique wisdom into a multi-million-dollar empire. After walking runways around the world, a breakthrough moment sparked a journey from promoting other people's brands to building her own legacy with Forever Bride, which she scaled from a local Twin Cities wedding platform to a national phenomenon which caught the attention of David's Bridal, who acquired it in 2022. Ashley later founded SOAR Leadership Groups, a curated community for high-performing leaders who refuse to navigate success alone. Her mission is to ensure that no leader ever feels isolated in their journey to greatness. In early 2025, Ashley was named a Minneapolis-St. Paul Business Journal 40 Under 40 honoree, which recognizes the area's top entrepreneurs under the age of 40 years old. Get ready for a breakthrough conversation that will challenge everything you thought you knew about scaling success, building community, and the hidden forces that separate thriving leaders from those who get burnt out doing it alone. Please welcome to the show, Ashley Hawks. Ashley, thanks for joining me today.
Hello, thank you. That is quite the intro. I'm listening to all this going, man, it doesn't seem that cool when you're in the thick of it and you're just your head's down and you're getting your butt kicked. But it does. It was a beautiful intro. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. And that didn't even cover all of your resume, which we'll probably get to at some point here in the conversation. But really excited for this. I'm going to hit you right off the bat with a question I'm really curious to get your answer of. You say that breakthrough comes with being in the right room with the right people. In your opinion, what makes the room and the people in those rooms the right ones?
Oh man, I feel like this goes back to being a kid where your parents explain to you, you hang out with a bunch of smokers, you're going to be a smoker. You hang out with a bunch of partiers, you're going to become one of those. And the people that you spend time with, no matter how much you say, well, I'm not going to be like that, I'm just going to spend time with them. It's near impossible. Think of a group of friends and people that swear all the time. Even if you aren't a natural, it just doesn't flow out. You hang out with them for an afternoon and those things will start flowing out of your mouth and you won't even realize. So humans, we are hardwired to just to naturally kind of absorb into the people that we're around. It's a cultural thing. It's a community thing. And so it's really important to be intentional with who you're spending your time with. And if you're very clear on the person that you want to become and the impact that you want to have on this world, you have to be very intentional with where you're going, who you're spending your time with.
Should you do some pre-work to make sure that you are aligned with the people that you're around, or is it just kind of just get around people who are on a trajectory that you want to be on? How would you articulate that?
And it's not always being in a room with people that agree with every single thing that you agree with, right? Because then growth is not happening, and then we're talking about the same things, and so it's not finding your exact people. I remember my husband and I. We were church shopping years ago, and we were going around, and we found this one church, and he had a really profound thing. He's like, look, we're never going to find a church where every single person in that room believes in every single thing that we do. That doesn't exist. Everything would be a church of one then. What you do is you find people with common goals and values, with the long-term objectives, and there's lots of different ways to get there, and everybody's going to do it a little bit differently. So you want to focus more on those bigger long-term goals versus, those little tiny nitpicky things. But yeah, and it's okay to, like I said, it's okay to not agree with every single thing that other people agree with. And if anything, it's healthy to be around people that will challenge you a little bit and provide different perspectives. They have different backgrounds, but definitely being in the right room changes everything.
Is this? Networking gets thrown around. Is that what this is, or I would assume what you're getting at is something deeper than just purely networking. There's intentionality behind it, right? So like, how would you describe what you are suggesting versus just purely kind of surfacey networking?
Right. Well, with SOAR, I actually challenge people that this is not networking in any way. I don't want someone coming into this ecosystem with the mindset of what am I going to get out of it? What kind of sales can I get? Who can introduce me to who? What kind of doors can I get opened? The goal of a peer group really is to come in with the mindset of, I want to become the best version that Ashley can be as a leader, as a wife, as a mother, as a decision maker, as a CEO. And so I'm coming into this with, I'm willing to be open. I'm willing to share ideas. I'm willing to be vulnerable and say, I don't have it all figured out. I'm going through this challenge. What do you guys think? And by being in a room with people that have either been there in different ways, shapes, or form, and they have different perspectives and insights, and we have a deep enough relationship, this is over time, where maybe I throw an idea on the table or a challenge, and my group of about 10 to 12 lovingly can go, hey, Ashley, you might be looking at this wrong. Or, hey, I went through something similar, and actually what I did was this. Maybe you're not looking at it from the right angle. Or, hey, here's another solution to the problem. I have someone I could introduce you to help with this. So the people that we're looking for, the people that do really well in peer groups are the ones that have seen a little bit of success. They've built something big enough where they can leave the office for a couple hours and everything doesn't fall apart. Their job is to think. Their job is to be focused on strategy. Their job is to lead the team. They're running the ship. So coming in there with the mindset of becoming a better leader, becoming a better person, making better decisions versus networking. And the networking will happen naturally. You build a bunch of great relationships with people and they learn who you are and what you do and what kind of products and services you have. Naturally, we're going to want to help our friends and we're going to share their names in the right circles with other people. So it's a secondary byproduct.
Sure. I love going to groups like that and saying, what can I bring to the table? Not just what can I glean and or exploit. Not that anybody would go to do that, but it's a give and a take, not just see what you can get. You brought up SOAR. I wanted to talk about this, explain what that means. And also too, I'm interested to hear, you've been doing this now for a while. Like what are some things that leaders learn, or maybe you've learned being a part of these groups that maybe you didn't see coming, or lessons that come from other leaders once they come together that they wouldn't have perhaps encountered or solved on their own?
Oh, I love that. Well, to answer your first question, SOAR, it's actually an acronym. It stands for Strategic Opportunities to Amplify Results. So it's quite a mouthful, but the concept is exactly that. It's finding ways, rooms, people, opportunities that are going to push you farther ahead than you could have done on your own. I had a mentor that told me this story years ago when he actually suggested that I join a peer group. I had never been part of a peer group. And he explained it like this. He said, imagine there's two lumberjacks in a forest, and the first one chops away all day long, gets there early, stays late. And I was in that grind mode, the girl boss hustle, early 2000s. And he's like, but there's this second lumberjack. He works hard, takes a nice lunch break, sometimes leaves early to catch his kid's soccer game, but he cuts down twice as many trees as the first guy. First guy, after a while, goes, this isn't fair. I work harder than you, right? What gives? The second guy goes, well, couple times a week, I leave the forest and I sharpen my axe. And he goes, Ashley, that's what a peer group does. You are not going to double your business by doubling the amount of hours that you're putting in. Working harder is not going to get you more results. You're at this point now where you need to walk out of the forest and sharpen your axe, be around other people that are going to sharpen you. Iron sharpens iron. And it was exactly that. I remember going into my first peer group, pregnant with my second baby, waddling in there in my stilettos. I think I was the only woman in my group, probably the youngest one by 20 years. And I fought my mentor on this. I'm like, I'm not going to, these people don't know my business. My challenges are so different and so unique. The wedding industry is so different than anybody. They won't be able to help me. And the truth is, there's really three main topics that are talked about in these rooms that every leader deals with, no matter the industry. And it's people, money, and vision. And really, those are the topics that people are struggling with. And I don't want to say struggle like we're doing something wrong, but as a leader, our job is just to solve problems all day long. That's what a business does, is it solves problems and challenges. And the bigger the business, the bigger the problems. And having good people around you that can speak life and provide different perspectives, it's really healthy.
Yeah. I love this concept. And by the way, those three things, on a side note, and I don't want to take the conversation this way, but I've been into my business now full time for almost a year. And I will tell you, the spiritual journey that you going into business is huge. Your faith has to grow, because those three things that you just dealt with are like, because you're dealing with people, you're dealing with vision, and you're talking about money, which are very, very things attributed to faith. And it's no wonder like your faith is so tested when you go into business. And yet another reason why having people in your corner, so to speak, is so important. My journey, I joke, but this is not a joke. Before 3.5 years ago, if somebody recommended a book, there was a pretty good chance I wasn't going to buy it, because it was like $17, like the cost was too much. Then my eyes started to get open, because I wanted more, and I saw other people doing it a way that was so profoundly different from the way I did it. I hired my first coach back in late 2022, and that was a really big stretch for me, and that propelled me that accelerated the growth so fast. When was the first time that you actually maybe invested in, again, I'm not trying to clump, but coaching groups, getting in the right rooms, like paying to play to make sure that investing in the people in the rooms that you're in? When was the first time you had that experience, and what happened?
So when I came on board with Forever Bride in 2012, I actually started as an employee, and I had these two guys that had started the company, and they said, it's really important that you are constantly listening to audiobooks. I was like, what is an audiobook? And so we downloaded Audible, and they're like, look, the company's going to pay for it, and we're going to have required reading, and we're going to all read these books together. And that just, that became now I have 30-mile commute. I know yours is much longer, but I have a 30-mile commute each way between my house and the office. And I've been doing this for 12, 13 years now. I haven't listened to the radio in 13 years. I listen to books every single day. And what you quickly realize is that $17 book, it has $1 million idea inside of it, or it has a $10,000 solution that you just have to find. You might not, just kind of like what we were talking about, you don't have to agree with everybody. You don't have to agree with everything in that book. You don't have to only read books that you believe in and you agree with. But sometimes there's a little nugget in there that is going to be much more valuable than that $17 investment. So there's been plenty of aha moments where, I'm driving down 169 and something, hits me in the head, and you go, oh my gosh, that's it. That's the solution, right? Your brain is primed now to start thinking differently the more that you keep putting in it.
Yeah. And again, a $17 book, even if it gives you a $100 solution, it was 100% worth it. You know what I mean? The ROI on that is huge. And that's how I continue to play my game. And I try to be a yes person. When these opportunities come up, I say yes, because if you just look at it at purely the cost, it just does not. You're looking at it from such a one-dimensional space, and there's multi-dimensions to that can, again, pay dividends for decades and years to come. If I did my research right, both of your parents were entrepreneurs, correct?
Sure, yes.
So when did you kind of get the itch, so to speak? And by the way, this show isn't just for entrepreneurs. It's for people of growth mindsets who want to break through. I'm sure there's a lot of people who are maybe working W-2 jobs, perhaps, that want to break into entrepreneurship. But where did you get the bug, and when did you first kind of put it into action?
So I did. Both my parents were entrepreneurs. My mom owned a bridal shop for 25 years. So that was, that was the fun side. My father owned a law firm. That wasn't as fun, but I'd still go hang out. But that was the family businesses, going after school and, vacuuming and pressing dresses. And there was a nonprofit that we supported called Operation Glass Slipper. And basically what this woman did was people could donate their used bridesmaids dresses, old prom dresses, shoes. I mean, think of how many proms and events and bridesmaids weddings you've been a part of, and you have this closet full of dresses that you're probably not going to wear again. But they're too nice. You spent $200-$300 on this dress. You're not quite ready to give it to Goodwill. So you donate it to Operation Glass Slipper. And once a year, they have these beautiful events where girls can come in and they can shop for free a dress, a pair of shoes, purse, some makeup, a little jewelry. All they have to do, I think, was get a letter from their school or a guidance counselor saying that they were kind of within this income level, so you don't have people taking advantage of it. So we partnered with the bridal shop where we could be a drop-off location, so people could come in, drop it off, get their little tax write-off form. I wanted to throw a party because I saw how hard this woman worked for Operation Glass Slipper. And I'm going, more people need to know about this. So I decided to throw a party. And the party evolved into a DJ and a silent auction and all these different games. And we brought in, I think we filled up 2 U-Haul trucks full of dresses and shoes and things and raised all this money. And it was so easy. It was something that I just was excited about, and I knew it was a great cause, and I had no problem talking about it and calling people up and calling Buttercream Cake, seeing if they would donate a cake to the event because it's a great cause. And it didn't feel like selling. It didn't feel like work. And I think that was my first breakthrough moment where I went, oh my gosh, when you find something that just lights your heart on fire, not only A, does it not feel like work, but B, other people, they gravitate to you. They gravitate to your mission and why you're doing it. They want to be a part of it. And that was kind of my first little taste of entrepreneurship of if I can put together something like this, and it doesn't have to be party planning, but if I can find things that get me really excited, and in working with other people that share same values, they care about giving back, they care about bringing people together, they care about making a difference in their community. Those are the people I want to keep hanging out with and do business with. It was easy. I think as entrepreneurs, sometimes we find that groove, like you're swimming in the stream and it feels hard, and all of a sudden you find that sweet spot where it doesn't feel hard anymore.
I love that. Let's keep going down that road a little bit, because I've had a chance to work with a lot of people over the last year since I've been doing this full time, and it's pretty much a split, like males and females. I'm not, I don't want to say surprised or shocked. People that are in their 40s, maybe even approaching 50 years old, and they're still looking for that thing that really kind of sets their heart on fire. And I would say, again, this is just in my experience. I know as females have maybe a little harder time really trying to find the thing that really makes them tick and sets their heart on fire. Speak to that person who has maybe been in the corporate world for 20 years, especially the people that have maybe been in the corporate world for 20 years and they're making good money, but they know something's missing. And they're hearing you say, find that thing that really makes you tick. And sometimes they say, I don't know. I don't even know what that is. What should I tell them? What do you tell those people?
I think the most important thing, and as women especially, I think there's a lot expected of us, right? And I even found myself in that position when I was in corporate for a couple of years, and I was the breadwinner, and I held all of our insurance, and I was doing great, and it was like slowly hurting me inside. So even though I only did that for a couple of years, but finding things outside of your ecosystem. Having hobbies. And I know it's so hard because, yes, I've got kids and I swear I only have like 5 minutes a day for myself. So this is do as I say, not as I do. But really force yourself to find those activities and try stuff. Like I did a flying trapeze class the other day, and it was terrifying. I hate heights, and it was definitely outside of my comfort zone. There's a book that Ed Milet wrote called Max Out Your Life, and he talks about chasing butterflies. And that hit me because as kids, even as young adults, sometimes we do things, or we're cliff diving, or we're going on adventures, and you get those butterflies in your stomach, right? And your heart is pounding, and your hands are shaking, and then you go and you do it. And I used to get that feeling all the time before I'd go on a runway show. You're backstage and the lights go down and the music starts and you get those little butterflies. But when was the last time you got butterflies? And so when this opportunity popped up, someone called me and said, "Hey, we'd really love for you to come to this event." And I said, "Okay." So doing things that give you butterflies, finding things that get your heart fired up. And it's okay if you don't like it. It's okay if you go try something and it wasn't that great. I had another friend, he talked about our life is like chapters. If you think of a whole book, the book doesn't climax at chapter 3. Sometimes we put so much pressure on ourselves to find out who we're going to be. And really, you don't have to figure that out. Every chapter, if you think of each decade is about a chapter, you can choose one thing for this decade, and you can choose a totally different thing for the next decade and another thing. And for me, looking back at all of my chapters so far, they seem so random and so all over the place and just, head down, working hard. But then I look at them together, like in the introduction, and I go, all led into the next one. And each chapter prepared me for that next journey. And if I hadn't gone through that earlier one, I wouldn't have the skill set and the toughness and the know-how to go into that next one. So you don't have to have it all figured out. I'm still figuring it out.
Yeah, it's just a perpetual journey. I think people put too much pressure on themselves to make the move, and so what they end up doing is they do nothing, right? And then you just kind of sit and play repeat for years. And what I hear you say is just go out and try something, right, wrong, or indifferent. Go try it, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. And I kind of joke too. Again, I've always been a no person. For 43 years, I was like, say no. I'm going to win by saying no. And then I decided in 2022, I'm going to start saying yes. And I look at the things that I said yes to in 2022, and it's laughable today. And not a lot of it worked out. I was trying different things. I was signing up for coaching programs in all different sorts of fields. And what that taught me, though, is that, like, if I'm going to say yes, it needs to be in alignment with who I am. So it kind of made me then reeval, who am I, where are my skill sets, what lights my heart up on fire. Then I started making investments in 2023 and beyond that were in line with that. But I needed 2022. Well, it cost me money, but yet, like, well, big deal, because the cost of that lesson is worth more than the cost of that program or that conference I went to. It doesn't really matter. Absolutely. I kind of joke now with these younger kids. I was like, a 4 or 5 figure mistake, that's not a mistake anymore. Like, if that's all it cost, if it only cost me $5,000 to learn that lesson, that's cheap. I'll take that any day.
Maybe 10 years from now, you'll look back and go, oh my gosh, I needed to go through
absolutely
learn that lesson, because now this other opportunity that landed in my lap, I wouldn't have been able to say yes to it had I not had in the past.
I'm interested to hear your take on this. I'm a mindset guy. I talk a lot about mindset on this show, how to handle fear, pressure, all of those things. You've been in business a long time, created, sold businesses, now doing more. Everything is scaling up. Like, on a mindset level, where is your struggle and how do you deal with it? Is it fear? Is it imposter syndrome? Is it belief? Where would you say your biggest struggle through your journey of entrepreneurship has been from a mental space?
I feel like there's that little voice in your head that you're always arguing with. And, and if there's a book, what is it? The Power of Now talks about, the ego and the soul are actually two different. And if you just sit quietly for a moment and go, I wonder what I'm going to think next. And it's interesting what happens, because then you realize that that voice is outside of you. And sometimes that voice, if left unchecked, it can become really mean. And it can say some nasty stuff. And if you think of, I would never talk to my daughter that way. I would never look at my daughter in the face the way I look at myself in the mirror some days. And those are terrible things. And you need to keep that voice in check. If anything, you need to brainwash that voice. And that's part of what I do by listening to books in the car all day long, is just constantly keeping that voice in check, because that's what's going to either hold you back or push you forward.
Do you find that as, again, I'm using air quotes here, but as your success grows, which there's a level to that, but as you continue to grow and expand in business, does that voice get stronger, softer, or are you able to just rise above it more? How would you articulate that?
Oh, I was at an event the other day. Somebody was talking about the term imposter syndrome, and I hate that. I don't like that. The term imposter syndrome was not around 5 years ago, and the reason I don't like it is because it gives credit to this feeling that, like, you actually aren't good enough and you don't belong here. And the truth is, the ones that belong here are the ones that actually showed up and are trying it. Who cares if I screwed up at doing trapeze? I showed up and I climbed that ladder. And because I showed up, I actually do deserve to be there. It has nothing to do with my trapeze skills. And so, and you learn this, the more successful you become and the more successful people you meet and interview, they're all just figuring it out too. We are all growing and trying to become our best versions. And I think that's what's helped me at least a lot, is knowing that I love to help others find that too. I want to help other people keep that voice in check and to become their best versions, and know that it's okay to always be growing and trying and failing, right? And instead of being stuck in this cage of comfort, so to speak.
Yeah. I asked our last guest this question. He gave me a very interesting answer, but I'm just curious to hear what you have to say as well. Again, you're definitely motivated, like in it to win it, all in, as they all sell these cliches, you're embodying all of that. What is the end goal for you? Like what is the end game? And I don't mean from like a business perspective, but like from a life perspective. Why are we on this journey? Why are we having this conversation? Why are we trying to break through? Break through to what? To what end? How would you describe that?
I have these moments, and you and I are on a similar journey. Like, faith is a really big part of my life. And a couple years ago, I think I had this big realization that life is a gift, and a gift is meant to be enjoyed. If I gave you something, let's say I put a lot of thought into this gift and I gave you something, I want you to enjoy it. I don't want you to put it on a shelf and not look at it or not enjoy it. And God gave us this gift of life, and he wants us to go run around and be silly and eat the ice cream and laugh and watch sunsets and hold hands and do big things and take risks and jump off trapeze. And it's supposed to be like that. And so for me, I think the end game is using this gift, because I feel like it would be disrespectful to sit and be safe and not enjoy all that there is, and to travel and to try new foods and be silly, right? You can't take this thing too seriously. It's way too fun, right? But I also want other people to find that kid-like joy too. And I think having kids actually helped me discover that, because you are starting to see life through their eyes for the first time, and you're realizing this is just one big game, and we are just here to have fun and enjoy. So I just want everybody else to figure that out. Now, granted, do I need to take my own advice sometimes and I get a little too serious and too hard on myself? Absolutely. But again, we're all figuring it out as we go, and it's okay if, 2 steps forward, 1 step back.
It's an interesting duality that we live in, because going into business, growing, expanding, it takes a lot of work. There's a lot of uncertainty that you battle, right? But there's this duality that I've experienced in the last year where it's like, that's where I actually get my most peace. When I was in my safest, as what the world would call the safest, working my W-2 jobs, which I did for 20 plus years, there was something inside, even though I had like the steady paycheck and there really wasn't a ton of unknowns, I'm using air quotes, that's when I had the least amount of peace. It's this strange duality that high achievers, people that are into growth, live in, but yet this is kind of, this is the road we've chosen, I'll tell you, on a personal note, it starts getting grindy when I get disconnected. And again, whether you call that God, creator, the world, whatever you want, whatever fits your, spiritual beliefs. To me, when I get disconnected, it gets really heavy and burdensome. How do you stay connected? What's kind of your game there?
Oh, well, I'm lucky enough that I found a great partner. I've been with my husband for, I think, 21 years, which if you do the math, that's a little over half my life. So I give a lot of credit to him, but it was because of him that my faith was strengthened. We met in kind of a rough part of both of our lives, and then together we started figuring this out, and our faith has been really huge, and we are not perfect by any means, and we're, again, figuring it out as we go. But you're exactly right. Knowing that there's something bigger than you out there. You don't have to have it all figured out. You don't have to have it perfect. There is something that you can call out to at any moment, and just, driving down the road crying, going, I need help. I need you. I need peace. I need grace, whatever you need. And the crazy thing is, depending on whatever you believe, God, universe thing, when you put that much passion into asking for something, there's this energy that is real, and prayer works. Try it. Test God.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love that. And I think if you make that your prayer, your meditation, or your desire, your actions will follow, and you actually step into it. I think, again, going back to maybe 15 minutes ago, it's when we're not moving, when you feel the call and you don't move, that's when my anxiety starts to go up. That's when my peace starts to go down. And so even though you're stepping into maybe an unknown or a room, air quotes, that is making you uncomfortable, or a stage, the result then is like peace, because I feel like my soul's expanding, I'm growing, and I feel like that's such an innate desire from so many people. So yeah, we're talking about business and relationships and having the right people in our corner, but they're really, it's like a soul conversation that we're having, which I love that. We'll land the plane here just short. Go ahead. Absolutely. Just a couple more questions. We'll land this plane. I do want to touch on this. Building meaningful relationships. It's kind of how we started this conversation. Like, what is kind of the first step people can do to getting in the right room with the right people to both accelerate their growth, professionally and also personally? What's kind of like a one nugget you can drop for people here today?
what I've learned is it's very much like a spider web. You don't have to have this entire group. I want to join SOAR, or I want to be a part of this networking group, and you don't have to have that figured out. Find one person, and it can be somebody that you just like one quality about them. I like, I follow them on Instagram and I really like how much they work out, or she's got really great style. I love her clothes. Reach out to one person that you look up to and let them know why you're reaching out, what you like about them, and ask them to coffee. You would be so surprised how many people are very willing to go to a coffee with you, and maybe, have a specific angle. I'd love to talk about this, or I'd love to learn more about, are you a stylist, or, where do you work out? Ask the questions, find out something that they're interested in, and you'd be so surprised how many doors now they will open. Hey, now that I know your story, I'd love to introduce you to so-and-so. And then you say yes, you follow the yes. And then you go down to that person. And over time, you're going to build this incredible network. And I feel like that's how SOAR grew so fast overnight. Was I put a couple feelers out to people. I'm building this thing. I want to build these peer groups. I'm interested in, maybe I'll take this guy to coffee and this guy to lunch. And then they introduce me to a person and they start talking about it. And here we are 2 years later. And it's beyond my wildest dreams where we're at right now. And we're just growing and growing.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like people that are farther along in the game than you, they're more than willing to help out people who are willing to learn. Again, if somebody approaches me and I can sense that genuine desire, I'll gladly clear out 15 minutes or a half hour, an hour to chat with them. Because I get energy from that. You know what I mean? Like those are some of the highlights of my day when a 17-year-old from the gym reaches out to me and wants to ask me a bunch of questions. Like, I'd rather have those conversations than some other meetings throughout the day.
Well, you've had people like that have said yes to you when you were...
Absolutely.
So many people that have bent over backwards and gone out of their way to say, I'd be happy to do coffee, or I'd be happy to make that introduction, but you have to ask.
Yeah.
Reach out to you on Instagram and go, hi, I'd love to give you a business opportunity.
Exactly. Last question. This is a great segue to this last question. What's one relationship that really, really just took that trajectory and cranked it upward for you in your life? I know there's probably many, but what's one that comes to mind?
So many. I would say my business partners from Forever Bride, Charles and Mike, they were these two guys that we met at my mom's bridal shop, and they had this vision of how they wanted to basically revolutionize the wedding industry. And I saw the vision. And I wanted not only to be a part of something big. This was at, the start of social media. This is before Instagram even. YouTube was a thing. Like, so there's this excitement around everything happening on the internet. But it was the way in which they wanted to help these business owners. It was more than just giving them advertising. It was teaching them, instead of giving a man a fish, you teach him how to fish. And we were doing something so much bigger. But beyond that, what I got from it was this love of learning and this love of self-development. And they poured into me every single day of, I can be whoever I want to be. And I have endless opportunities. I never graduated college. And years ago, I felt like that was something that was going to hold me back. And they're like, absolutely not. How many books have you read in the last year? I'm like, 40. They're like, that's probably more books than the average college student has read in the last 10. And so I have a lot of gratitude for those guys in my life, and just, brainwashing me into thinking I can be this superstar.
That's the sign of a really good leader, is they show people things about them that they don't see for themselves. And I think if I have to kind of just sum up what a lot of people in this space are doing, you included, you're trying to get people to understand what is actually true about their life that they may not understand, because you don't have to micromanage them. You're giving them the keys because they have the answers. The reality is, I don't have the answers, but you do, So how can we help each other to get out of our own ways and see actually what is actually inside? It's a beautiful equation.
100%.
Yeah, I love it. Let's put a pin in it there. That was fantastic. I love this. Before I let you go, where can people find more about you and your organizations?
Well, the best way is, I was going to say our website, which, yes, you can visit our website. It's soargroups.com, SOAR groups, plural. But really LinkedIn. LinkedIn is where I nerd out. That's my Facebook. That's my Instagram. But I think LinkedIn is a great tool to connect with. So I would love for people to reach out to me on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Fantastic. Well done. Ashley Hawks in the house. What do you think about that? That worked out well.
That was wonderful. You are definitely a professional. You are so good. You've done this a couple times.
If this conversation sparked something in you, don't let it fade. Please rate, review, and subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform. Don't forget to connect with me online as well. Follow me at Jared Sebesta on Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube, or dive deeper at my website, jaredsebesta.com, where all my free trainings and resources are waiting for you. And remember, stop chasing the life you want and start becoming. This is the Breakthrough Effect. We'll see you next time.